to have Terry Hyland. Terry, sorry for leaving you in the background there for a while. There was a small bit of hurling, a bit more hurling that we had to discuss. Do you watch it at all, actually? Do you watch the hurling as much as the football, or would you pay much attention to it?
Well, not as much now, to be fair, because, hurling is not very strong up this neck of the woods. But yeah, look, I would watch it okay, and, it's a great, great sport, but I suppose it's in the minority up this end of the world.
Terry, obviously a busy weekend of football as well. I won't point you in any particular direction. What would have been your highlight of the weekend? Obviously, my own personal highlight is my own lads doing the business yesterday in O'Connor Park. But what was the main kind of takeaway from the football and weekend?
Yeah, well, that probably was the biggest shock yesterday. Would have been that Meath game. I'd have to say, Meath would have been expected. I know things may not have been going that well in the camp, but they would have been expected to account for Offaly, to be fair. And I know Offaly has a little bit of motive this year for them after poor Liam Kerr's passing away, but maybe that is carrying them on a little bit. I didn't see the game, so they seemed to be worthy winners on the scoreline. They were 7 or 8 points ahead at one stage, and I know that the report said they were kind of hanging on a little bit at the end, but at the same time, I just followed the scorelines, and it looked as if Meath weren't really in the game.
No, they weren't. They kicked a hell of a lot of wides as well. The first score came in the 23rd minute. It was a hand-passed effort. Like, that's kind of how bad it was at that stage, that they needed to get that close nearly to get the ball over. They 2 points scored at half-time. They chipped away and brought on a few subs and made it very interesting down the stretch, but never really looked like winning it. Your own native county were out at the weekend. Cavan obviously fell to Armagh, finished 114 to 12 points. How would you kind of summarise this game? Cavan's misfiring in front of the goals definitely didn't help anyway.
Well, probably was it shot selection or bad execution? Probably a little bit of both. I think that some of the shots they took weren't on at the time, and I suppose maybe you have to credit Armagh from that point of view. I think it was the pace of the game called Cavan. I think what has shown us, if anything else, is how important the league has got now running in the championship, because it comes so fast. And the fact that Cavan have been playing in Division 3 and Armagh have been playing in Division 1, and the fact that it's just more competitive, and Cavan didn't really start the game. They seem to be getting up to the pace of the game the last 15, 20 minutes, but at that stage, the game has gone away from them.
Yeah, this is a big opportunity for Armagh. Like, they need to go and do something at provincial level. They haven't won a hell of a lot of games under McGeeney's reign at provincial level. They've had some great runs through the qualifiers. And after being relegated from Division 1 to Division 2, looks like they've kind of stabilised a small bit, and it looks like they're going to have a good chance, obviously, of a provincial title in time.
Yeah, well, look at, I suppose, they have Down up next. Again, Down have been playing in Division 3. Donegal yesterday were very disappointing. Obviously, they have their own turmoil up there, and it come home to roost them yesterday. I did expect Donegal to beat them, to be honest with you, because of the fact that they had been competing up for so long in Division 1 and that. But Down, to be fair, are getting their act together in that they have a pattern to their play, and they have a method and the way they want to play. And you could see it for flashes against Cavan in the league, where they all want to run ahead, and they create a lot of goal chances on the back of that, so they do. But I would expect that Armagh probably would have too much for them. It's going to be very interesting on the other side now with Derry and Monaghan. I suppose it's a kind of a 50-50 game. People would be fancying Derry because they come through last year. But the one thing about that Monaghan side, there's a little bit of fire on the belly, and there's, they know how to dig out results, as it's shown in the league as well. So I wouldn't put it down as a foregone conclusion that Armagh have their hands half on the Anglo-Scott Cup by any means, to be honest with you.
You just mentioned there, obviously, about Down and Donegal, and it's amazing when things are going wrong, how it's just so hard to stem that tide almost. They finished Down 2-13, Donegal 1-11. Like, if you'd said this time last year that was going to be the case, like, Down were the ones in turmoil. Now their dander is up. Donegal were going okay last year. Now they're in absolute turmoil as well. I don't know. Is there any way for Donegal to rescue their season at this stage? It doesn't look that likely.
No, it's going to be very, very hard for them. I think that Paddy Carroll leaving obviously in the middle of the season wasn't a help to anybody. I think it's I don't think it's a wise move on anybody's behalf. I know Paddy probably left because he had his meeting with his players and felt it was for the benefit of the team. But yesterday showed that actually they didn't get any kick out of that at all. And when you get that little bit of a division or divisive attitude within in the group of players is something very, very hard to put together, certainly in the short term. I think Donegal's year is over, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it. It looks like it's over before it started. But just fly through. You probably haven't seen too much of the games in Leinster, obviously, but obviously the standout result: Dublin 4-30, Louth 2-9. You probably haven't seen too much of this, but you've probably seen a good bit of Dublin throughout the league. Definitely looks like they're back to close to where they want to be anyway, and they're going to take a fair bit of beating towards the latter stages of the All-Ireland this year, you'd imagine.
Yeah, well, look at it's okay. Obviously, Dublin are strong and going to be strong, and you still always get them in the top half dozen. I don't know if it's a reflection of the scoreline yesterday. It's again going back to what I said about the divisions. You had Laois competing in Division 4, and Dublin getting back up to Division 1, and I suppose it's a numbers job in one sense. When Dublin cut loose on you like that, they can do that to anybody. But perhaps it's a sign of where Leinster is more than anything else, to be fair. You know, it's I would be just more judging on that. As regards Dublin on the All-Ireland series, I think it's very open. But I wouldn't certainly put them at number 1 or number 2 at this point in time yet, anyway.
Just on the provinces, it's amazing. Like, we've got generally really competitive games in Connacht. We've got really competitive games in Ulster, and Kerry put up 25 points in Tipperary the other night, kind of doing a half speed. Dublin put up 4-30 on Laois. It's totally skewed in 2 provinces, yet it's really competitive in 2 other. Like, what's your view on the provinces? They've already given us some amazing moments already this year. The Monaghan won, obviously New York beating Leitrim as well, which we might come to you in a second, which I'm sure was disappointing from your respect as a former Leitrim manager. But what do you make of the standings of the provincial championships at the moment? Are we coming close to the time where we need to maybe go into open draw territory, or what do you think?
Well, I think it's heading that way anyway. I think you can see the change. You can see that, I can see it personally, and nobody has said this to me, but I personally see I see a complete sea change the way the competitions have been ran. I can see where the league is becoming more important, which in my opinion, as it should be, because that's what everybody's playing at their own level. The last 16 is playing towards a kind of your backdoor job, as you were alluding to there, and I think that's the way it's going to come. And the only danger I see in all of this is, and I'm probably old enough, and probably won't be around long enough to see it, but I can see the whole thing changing maybe to a semi-professional game, and maybe 20 type teams, call them what you like, clubs or counties, whatever we go down that route. You see TV coming in on the back of it. It's a very, very popular sport, football in Ireland. It has a great audience. And I think that's when the end of it's going to be exploited in the years to come.
Is that a good or a bad thing in your opinion? Like, are you talking about 20 teams as in potentially, weaker counties merging for the sake of competitiveness? Or
I would think that. I think it's going to go a little bit like the rugby. I know the rugby has gone only to 4 provinces, but I think we could be the fact that it's an indigenous sport to Ireland. It's not going to go down that route, but I do see it going where the weaker counties, I think, will get gobbled up a little bit. So they will either have to amalgamate or get absorbed in by some of the other stronger ones. And that is the danger, and having danger in it as regards the actual shape of the game or the competition as it is now.
How do we prevent against something like that? The Tailteann Cup coming in, obviously, and I think it was treated very professionally in the first year, with very good winners who celebrated it like winning an All-Ireland, which it was. How do we prevent against something like that happening? Because I wouldn't like the sounds of it anyway, to be honest with you. And I think it's hard bait, the parochialism of your own counties, even if just awfully winning yesterday, even if we are back in the Tailteann Cup, which we more than likely will be, and we go on a run there, I would take that over. We're not going to win All-Ireland realistically, but I'd still take getting to a Tailteann Cup final or winning that. That would still mean a lot to me. Whereas, if we ended up with someone else, I don't know. But as you say, if there's money and finances and commercial deals and all this kind of thing involved, I wouldn't like it myself. Are you foreseeing the future? Is it something you'd like to see, or is it just something you think will happen in time?
I think it will happen. It's not necessarily whether you like to see it or not like to see it. I think our demographics, our population is shifting. Give yourself, you're an Offaly man, you wear an Offaly jersey. I am assuming you're probably living in Dublin.
I'm living in Dunboyne and Meath, actually.
There
Yeah,
you
good
are. So
man.
you're living in Leeds. So you've moved towards the East Coast, and this is what's happening. And the politics of Ireland has totally changed. You alluded to the parochial end of it. If you look to the west, you look at the West Cavan, for example, from like it's totally denuded of population, and clubs are where they have facilities, they haven't got people, and it's all changing. And I would see it as a government policy. They want people living now in urban areas rather than rural areas. So the whole lot, it's all changing. So this will come as part of that change, I'm afraid.
Okay, we'll watch that with close interest. Just a question coming in here, Terry. Are Louth probably the second best team in Leinster? That was a big win for them yesterday. They're down 1-9 at half time against Westmeath and getting the result after. Just a brief word on you might touch on that question, and a brief word on what Mickey has done there, taking them from Division 4 to 3 to 2, nearly to 1, and their favourites going in against Offaly realistically this weekend as well, and have a chance of getting to a Leinster final. Their first since the famous Joe Sheridan final.
Yeah, as well, I suppose, in fairness, look, it's amazing what a little bit of organisation can do. And when you bring in somebody with that kind of know-how that has done it in a county before, I would know Peter Fitzpatrick quite well, Peter, chairman of Louth, and in fairness, they have put a lot of effort into this, and they're looking at their stadia now and different stuff like that. And again, a county with a population base that they have, they should never have been competing down in Division 4. And you know what I mean? It augurs well for them from the future, and it's good for the growth of the game in Louth, because soccer would be pretty strong up there as well. So but they have big population bases, your Drogheda, your Dundalk, that type of stuff. So there's no reason why they shouldn't be up there competing all the time.
Terry, the last time we were chatting to you, I felt there was an itch to get back into management. I wonder, did it happen?
Well, I've taken on a local club, Kilgarry, here this year, so trying to get used to that again. It's been a long time. I haven't done a club since 2009, so it's a little bit of a change to go back to club football. But I'm enjoying it, and I always enjoy actually being involved in football anyway. Enjoy being involved with people. It's just one of those things that's kind of in your blood or in your nature, whatever way you want to put it. But no, it's so far so good. We are playing away in the league here. We have this famous split season, which I have a little bit of a puzzle with, in that, to me, in most counties, the clubs seem to play away anyway, whether there's a split or no split. So,
what level are they competing at, Terry?
They were county finalists last year, so they're competing.
Sorry, Kilgarry. Yeah, sorry.
Kilgarry,
Yeah.
So they're county finalists last year. They're a young club, young team. Look at again like that. They have enormous potential going forward. They have a very, very big player base going down the line. So you know what I mean. They have a club base that should put them in the frame in the next 10 years going forward. You know?
What's your puzzle with the split season, and how difficult is it to manage that as a club manager?
Yeah, well, perhaps it seems to be a case of in that clubs want to get started, they're rich to get up and running. Then you get a club that maybe has 4 or 5 fellas involved with county squads, and they're starting off without that. And I suppose it's down to how you structure the league, in that you give everybody a fair crack of the whip. That that you have most of your players available for at least 50% of your games or something like that. It doesn't matter the structure. It's not that I have any issue with it. Some counties start earlier, some counties start later, or some counties play a league format and championship, some play knockout. But from what I can see, is club football seems to finish earlier now than ever it finished. So maybe that's what young people want. I don't know.
So when would you have went back, for example? Because it is a bit of a balancing act in, like, you could say you go back the first week in January, you mightn't be playing a championship game until, if Cavan go well, you might be playing a championship game until the first weekend in August.
Yeah, and most counties would, but that's when they're coming in. But depending on how the championship is, if you play a round robin or a league basis, possibly 50% of your clubs are finished at the end of August, early September, and then they do nothing. Now, maybe we were just used to, in my time, playing football. You just played football all year long. Perhaps we didn't put in as much preparation into playing football as people do now. There seems to be a niche to get started January, February with everybody.
There's a fear. There's this innate fear in the GAA that your rivals are leaving you behind. It's this, and texts start flying around that X, Y, or Z are back. They've 6 weeks done. They're flying, and it's gas. all this pre-season stuff goes out the window once you forget about legals. If everything is forgotten once your first championship match is played and whether you win or lose, and it's irrelevant what training you were doing. I just think it's mad. Is this innate fear in the GAA? Oh no, Johnny's team up the road are doing this. We have to get back.
Yes, and if you don't seem to have all these gym sessions done and all this running sessions done, and as I try and keep telling them fellas, we play football with a ball. It's a round thing, and that's what we play with. So I never see anybody saying, "Have you got 10 footballs here? I want to go out and practice kicking frees." We have this preference for the gym and preference for all this other stuff that we can tick a box and say that you've done. But rather than saying, "I'm going out now and I'm going to do a scoring drill and see how many times I score," I have kind of changed maybe the terminology. People you tell we're going to go out to do a shooting drill, and I says, "Well, everybody can shoot, but how many people can score?" You can hand a gun to somebody and
so it's a score. It's a scoring drill. It's a scoring drill, not shooting drill. The last one I just put to you, Terry. I should have said it earlier, just about Galway and Roscommon. I finished Galway 1-13, Roscommon 1-9. I heard kind of Davy Burke talking after, just saying that maybe the whole emotional element of beating Mayo, they just weren't able to. There was a bit of an energy kind of a deficit. Maybe once they got going, they made the game really, really competitive. Now, by all accounts, this was more akin to an Ulster kind of football game in how tight it was. There were very few plays in the game, shall we say, a lot of holding on to the ball, a lot of kind of methodical kind of play. But Galway are after negotiating their way through to a Connacht final. They're going to be heavy favourites going in against the Sligo side that beat New York. Just like in an open season, are Galway far away from winning All-Ireland?
Well, again, as a state of bank, to be honest with you, can you give me a definitive favourite for the All-Ireland? I can't pick one. No. It could be Kerry, it could be Galway, it could be Dublin, it could be Derry, or it could be Armagh. It could be, what I mean? I don't see anybody's form, and that's probably because the way the championship was moved back towards the start of the league, the teams are coming in at a different prep level maybe than other years. The Galway certainly would be in the shake-up and the mix. Yesterday was, I suppose it was a very tactical game. It would have been the case of matchups, and Galway probably kind of kept Enda Smith quiet for a while, but yet Enda laid on the goal, and he probably laid on another goal chance that he punched one across that they didn't take. I think it was a case of that maybe just Galway had one or two more better players than Roscommon had yesterday. They kind of showed in the end.
Do you enjoy modern football?
I do. And I just smile when I talk to guys, maybe my generation, older generation, and football is not as good as ever was. See, you have to evolve with everything that's happened. And the problem is, our generation was kick it and run after it, as I call it. You know what I mean? And if you happened to win it, and the other fellow won it, and you took it off, and whatever it was, corner forward had to win his own ball. With technology coming in and people looking at other sports, and they take a little bit of basketball, and they take a little bit of rugby, and they take a little bit of everything. And if you remember, like years ago, you'd Kerry guys going over to show South Africans how to catch a ball. You know what I mean? Everybody mimics what's going on around the world and pick little bits of everything. And as it should be, because as humans, that's what we do. We learn. We see something, we adapt to it, or we copy it, or we take a piece out of it. And that's just the way football has gone. And I don't think that... I think people appreciate more mistakes being made sometimes than they do the actually good part of it,
I'd be the same. I'd be a big snooker fan, and I love big breaks and stuff like that. It's great, but to me, the best frame of snooker is when mistakes are being made. It's the same sometimes with football and hurling, when things are going that frenetic that you're not 100% sure what's going to happen. Whereas now, generally in football, you think they're all fairly assured in the ball. They're generally going to do a safe enough thing with the ball as well. So that bit of kind of jeopardy is kind of gone as well, in a sense, if you get me.
Yeah, but that's because, to be fair to teams and team management, you can't afford to make too many mistakes. If you do, you're going to lose the game. So it's a case of, what are we here for? Are we here to provide entertainment? Yes, to a point, but we're also here to win. So it's how you get that balance right. Now, lovely, if you can provide entertainment and win as well, and get a brand that will do that, and a group of players that can also execute it when they get out on the pitch. It goes back to your point. Somebody within 1 to 15 is going to make a mistake somewhere, and there comes a turn around on it. So, that's what I said. People sometimes enjoy the mistake because it gives an opportunity to the opposition and a turnaround. But teams are making less and less of those mistakes.
Final question to you, and just it's more of a comment actually. Just one of the viewers in here, Pádraig Hogan, just says, or Richard Hogan says, Pádraig Joyce must surely be happy with getting Comer back in the field. Like Damien Comer's like a bit of a force of nature, isn't he? He's kind of a bit of a throwback as well, but he's so crucial to everything Galway do realistically.
Yeah, well, I suppose you look at yesterday. Shane Walsh was quiet. Comer was hot. We go back to the All Ireland final last year. It was the other way around. His trick is, how does he get the two of them firing?
Yeah.
Has he got a game plan that can beat the two of them into the game at the same time? And if they get that balance right, they're going to cause a lot of problems.
There's a sense if things click with Galway and you throw Rob Finnerty and Matthew Tierney and Johnny Heaney and Peter Cook into the equation, and Ian Burke when he gets back fit again, that they could be very dangerous. But Terry, thanks a million for joining me. Well, you have something else to say? I'll let you say it.
No, but I was going to go back to say what you said about all the other players. You see, it's how Galway can get that mix right. It's going to be the key thing to them. They have the players, but sometimes when you have two very strong players like that, you're trying to route your game through them. Is how you can bring the other fellas in on the back of that. And if Galway clicks that, I would make them favourites for the All.
Really? Okay. It's that sort of fascinating year where you just need some team to step up 5 or 10% and they could win All Ireland. There's probably 5 or 6 of them that feel they can, I'd say.
Correct. And you see, when you only have the two stars, you're always going to be having the opposition. You can close off one of them. So when they can get one of them two boys firing and everyone else working off the back of them, that they have to start to shift the lads around to mark them. I think then Galway will be going well.
Great stuff. Terry, thanks for taking time out of your working day. I really appreciate it. Good man.
Thank you. No problem.
Thanks a million.
Bye-bye.
Bye.